Hey y'all, I'm Dr. Lakrishia Cook, but you can call me Dr. Lala. Welcome back to another episode of the Revolve podcast where grief and loss are a journey, not a final destination. Today, we're going to talk about inner work. Yeah, I know, right? We're going to talk about facing ourselves without fear. I know, and let's just sit with that for a second. Because a lot of times, that is the one thing nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to look in the mirror. Nobody wants to um, actually acknowledge those places that hurt, acknowledge those places that make us feel shame, right? Those types of things are scary for a lot of us. But here's the truth: healing doesn't happen without reflection, without looking in the mirror, without facing ourselves. It only happens when we're able to face ourselves and actually give ourselves grace, acknowledge the truth, and have the courage to do it, right? So, why does it matter? Because honestly, it's easier to avoid it. Let's just be honest, right? It's easier to avoid ourselves. It is so much easier to help people, to serve, to perform, to distract ourselves. It's so much easier to do those types of things than it is to say, why do I respond this way? Why does that trigger me the way it does? Why am I so afraid of love, of stillness, of being seen? Because grief, a lot of times it distorts our identity, our confidence, and our clarity, right? There are so many things about ourselves that change when we're grieving. And the truth is, avoidance is so much easier, or at least it feels that way. But here's another truth: when we avoid things, it actually slows down our healing process. So, in order to truly transform, in order to truly experience transformation, we have to begin with the truth. Right. And not just the truth that we tell others, but the truths that we tell ourselves. Because we cannot heal what we can't name. So before we're able to rebuild our lives, we have to clear out all of the garbage, right? Doing that work isn't selfish, because sometimes that looks like stepping away from the things and the people that we love most, right? But this isn't selfish. This is spiritual stewardship, right? It's saying, Lord, I'm ready to heal. I'm done hiding. And we're not hiding from him, right? Because he already knows. He knows everything. So we can't hide anything from God, right? We can't lie to God. We're hiding from ourselves, right? And a lot of time we do that because we're afraid of what we're going to find. And this is where self-awareness comes into play, right? And this isn't a time to judge yourself. This isn't a time for you to condemn yourself. Self-awareness and reflection is about finding clarity. It's about identifying those places that hurt and being able to see how you've been protecting that hurt place, right? Acknowledging the walls that you've built to protect yourself, the ones that grief convinced you were necessary. Grief had you believing that I have to stay in these four walls in order to protect myself because I can't afford to hurt anymore. I don't know that I can handle one more thing. So to keep from hurting, to keep from falling apart, I'm just going to build these four walls and I'm going to sit in them. I have more than enough to keep me busy, right? I have more than enough to keep me distracted. I don't need anything else, so I'm going to sit right here, right? But here's the thing, we're ready to heal. We're tired of being in these four walls. We're tired of being alone. We're tired of being afraid. We're tired. And so now we're ready to move forward. And once we reach that place, that's when we can start asking ourselves, what needs to be surrendered? What do I need to give to God? What am I carrying that isn't mine to carry? What needs to be forgiven? Especially within me. Where have I been surviving instead of living? Right? A lot of us fear facing ourselves because we're afraid of what we're going to find. Yep. We're afraid of what we're going to find, right? The guilt, the shame, the suppressed emotions. All of those things we like to tell ourselves that we don't have, right? Those things that we put in the box and put on the shelf, right? The guilt, the shame. Sometimes there's anger. Sometimes there's hurt, right? All of these emotions that we refuse to acknowledge, right? But here's the truth. In order to heal, you have to be honest with yourself. And sometimes being honest with yourself takes the most courage of all. Right? That moment when you realize, I thought I was keeping this from everyone else, when really, I was trying to hide from myself all along. Right? But here's the thing. It's not too late. You're not too broken, and you're not behind. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, right? Some things we have to do scared, right? That's courage, doing it even when you're scared, right? Whatever that looks like, those things that are causing you shame, right? That are causing you to feel guilty, all of those things. But do you know that God already knows all of those things? He knows it, and he still calls you worthy, right? God knows all about us, and we are still worthy. And that you can still be scared and still show up, right? Be scared, but show up anyway, right? Being self-aware is you recognizing these spaces where you need work, where you need to do the work, right? Self awareness isn't a time for you to punish yourself. It's that space where you see the areas of opportunity, right? And this is where therapy and faith, again, can play a significant role in your healing journey, because we're always going to go back to how faith and therapy work together, right? Faith and therapy work together. They are best friends, right? That's how we get to a place of lasting healing, right? You can love yourself and still see where you've been hurting. And healing comes from a grace filled clarity, not shame based criticism, right? Healing comes from grace filled clarity, not shame based criticism. And the truth is, some of us are still stuck after going through some events in life because we're so filled with shame. Because there are things that happen that you never expected to happen. The people and the circles that you're in, we see things a particular type of way, and then for whatever reason we wind up deviating from all the things that we've always known or thought to be true, and now we're ashamed. And how do I know? Because I've been there. When I went through my divorce, that was one of the most hurtful and shameful experiences of my life. I'm a church girl. And I grew up believing that divorce is wrong. And, or let me say it this way, divorce without just cause is wrong. So, the way my belief system was set up is that in the event that there is some type of infidelity, biblically, it's okay for you to walk away from your marriage. Now, ideally, you work it out. But if it can't be worked out in instances of infidelity, you can walk away. But the caveat was you couldn't get remarried. If you divorced, you were expected to live the rest of your days in your singlehood. That's what I was taught. And so once you make the decision to walk away, right? Or for me, once I made the decision to walk away, then there was this shame of feeling like, despite the fact that I had biblical reason to walk away, that I was allowed to, but then there was also this shame of not being a good enough wife. There was the shame of having to say there was something that prevented us from being able to stay married. I didn't work hard enough. I didn't pray hard enough. His needs weren't being met. Because I was taught that a sanctified wife sanctifies her husband. So obviously, If we're still dealing with infidelity and lies and all of these things, obviously it's because I'm not doing something that I was supposed to do. So I was very ashamed. Very. Right? So, how do you navigate those moments? How do you move forward when everything that you've ever been taught has told you that you're the reason this didn't work out? And the conversations were never about why I left, but the fact that I left. And it was hard. It was so hard. And imagine, I had also just lost my mom literally in that window of time. Like, my mom passed away, and I found out that my husband was cheating again. So I was literally just a ball of feelings, all the things, all the time, all at once. But Jesus in therapy. Jesus in therapy are the reason that I'm able to sit here and smile today. Because I'm not going to lie to you. There were some days when I wondered if I would ever smile again. All I did was cry. I mean, that literally. If I was awake, I was crying. But Jesus in therapy. So, how did therapy help? It helped by helping me ask the hard questions. I was able to connect patterns, uncover the root of some of my issues, and to get language for things that up until then I had only felt. And the truth is, God can and does heal instantly at times. But therapy can help us unpack the layers that come with all of these feelings and these life experiences. It gives us the tools that we need to be able to navigate these new normals. It encourages us to be able to reflect with strategy, build emotional literacy, and affirms that our past does not have to define our future. So, yeah, all of that happened, but that doesn't define who I am. It's helping me build, but it doesn't define who I am. Therapy helps us to translate a mess into a map. So we don't have to keep guessing why we hurt, and we can actually start exploring how to actually heal. And when you combine all of the skills and tools that you gain from going to therapy, when you combine that with your faith, when you combine that with the word of God, baby, that's when healing can truly take place, right? Because our faith gives us the grace in the process. Because when we face our mess, it's so easy to be consumed by the shame, right? But here are the facts: God doesn't shame us, He restores. Isaiah 61:7 says, "Instead of your shame, you shall have double honor." Faith is what reminds us that this healing work that we're doing, God honors that. And he sees every broken piece, and he still calls us worthy. God meets us in the truth, not in the performance. Because listen, I don't care how you dress it up. I don't care how pretty you make it look, how much makeup and how many smiles you have. God sees what's underneath all of that. Right? But this is where our faith can remind us that no matter what we uncover, we are still redeemed. We are still loved, and we are worthy. It doesn't matter what your past looks like, you're worthy. And shame would have us believe that we're not. Why? Because shame thrives in secrecy and silence. Because shame will cause us to hold these things in and beat ourselves up with them. When healing thrives in the truth. You can let go of the version that you had to become just to make it through the situation that you were going through, right? Instead of shame, we want to start speaking life over ourselves. You deserve joy. You deserve boundaries. You deserve forgiveness. You deserve to forgive yourself, because how many of us have things that we are condemning ourselves for? How many of us have things that we need to forgive ourselves for? How many of us have that? You deserve to heal and thrive, not just survive. And you have the authority to release that shame. You don't have to carry it anymore. That's a weight that you can put down. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we have to figure out what it is. So in your prayer time, in your journaling time, you can ask yourself things like, what truth have I been avoiding? What parts of me needs forgiveness? What am I carrying that God didn't assign? How many of us are carrying things that were never ours to begin with? Right? This is a starting place. Things that you can dig into a bit more with your therapist, right? Because healing, it starts with honesty. And you're the most important piece to that puzzle. You have to be honest with yourself. Right? But listen, I know facing yourself isn't easy. It's not, but it's necessary. We can't transform without truth, and you can't rebuild without reflection, right? So I want to encourage you to take a moment, take a deep breath, and do the work. And let God meet you in it. You're not here by yourself. You're not in this by yourself. God is right there with you. And you are worthy of healing that goes deep, healing that has staying power, and love that's rooted in truth. God sees you. And I truly believe He honors your courage. You are becoming the very best version of yourself, even though it's uncomfortable, even though you're scared. Doing this inner work is the bravest step you'll take. But you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to do the work. It's time. Let's heal together. So until next time, keep choosing healing. Keep choosing joy. I love y'all.